The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Introduction. I want to tell you a story. It's a true story about a man who, until his late 20s, lived in a state of almost constant anxiety, a quiet dread that was often punctuated by periods of deep, suicidal depression. His name was Eckhart Tolle. One night, not long after his 29th birthday, he woke up with a feeling of absolute terror. It was a feeling he'd known before, but this time, it was different. It was unbearable. The silence of the night, the shapes of the furniture in his room, the distant sound of a train. Everything felt alien, hostile, and utterly meaningless. But the most loathsome thing of all, he felt, was his own existence. What's the point, he thought, in continuing to live with this burden of misery? A single thought kept repeating itself in his mind, over and over. I cannot live with myself any longer. And then, something strange happened. He looked at that thought. He became aware of how peculiar it was. If I cannot live with myself, he wondered, there must be two of me. The I, and the self that I cannot live with. And maybe only one of them is real. In that moment of stunning realization, his mind stopped. The frantic, anxious thinking just ceased. He was fully conscious, but there were no thoughts. He felt himself being pulled into a vortex of energy, and a voice from within his own chest seemed to say, resist nothing, and he let go. The next thing he knew, he was awakened by the chirping of a bird. He'd never heard a sound so beautiful. The first light of dawn filtering through his curtains seemed like love itself. He walked around his room, and everything felt fresh and pristine, as if it had just been born. He picked up a pencil, a bottle, marveling at the sheer aliveness of it all. That day, he walked around the city in a state of utter amazement and deep, uninterrupted peace. That feeling never left him. He had stumbled upon a secret that spiritual masters have been pointing to for centuries. The book that emerged from this transformation, The Power of Now, has since sold millions of copies and has been translated into over 30 languages. It's a book that has been called life-changing by countless people, from ordinary men and women to prisoners on death row. And the secret it contains is what we're going to explore today. By the end of our time together, you will understand the single greatest obstacle to your own happiness, and you'll hold the key to unlocking a life of profound peace and freedom, not in some distant future, but right here, right now. Book summary. Let me start with a simple parable that Eckhart tells. Imagine a beggar who has been sitting on the side of a road for over 30 years. Every day, he holds out his old cap and mumbles, "Spare some change?" to passers-by. One day, a stranger walks by. "I have nothing to give you," the stranger says. But then he asks, "What's that you're sitting on?" "Oh, nothing," the beggar replies. "Just an old box. I've been sitting on it for as long as I can remember." "Have you ever looked inside?" the stranger asks. "No," says the beggar. "What's the point? There's nothing in there." "Have a look inside," the stranger insists. The beggar, curious, manages to pry open the lid. And with astonishment and disbelief, he sees that the box is filled to the brim with gold. Now, Eckhart says that he is that stranger who has nothing to give you, but who is telling you to look inside. Not inside a box, but somewhere even closer, inside yourself. You see, those of us who haven't found our true wealth, the radiant joy of being and the deep, unshakable peace that comes with it, are all beggars, even if we have great material wealth. We are looking outside of ourselves for scraps of pleasure, for validation, for security, or for love, while we have a treasure within that is infinitely greater than anything the world can offer. So, what is this treasure, and what's preventing us from finding it? The answer to the second question is the most important discovery you can ever make. The single greatest obstacle to experiencing this inner wealth is this: identification with your mind. What does that mean? It means you believe that you are your mind. You believe that the voice in your head, that incessant stream of thinking, is who you are. Think about it. There's a voice in your head right now, isn't there? It's commenting on these words, judging them, comparing them to things you already know. That voice rarely, if ever, stops. It's a continuous monologue or dialogue. It speculates, it complains, it likes, it dislikes, it worries about the future and relives the past. This is what Tolle calls the unobserved mind. It's a dreadful affliction, but we don't realize it because almost everyone is suffering from it, so we consider it normal. Not being able to stop thinking is a disease. The philosopher Descartes famously said, "I think, therefore I am." He believed he had found the most fundamental truth. But Eckhart argues this is the most fundamental error. He equated thinking with being, and identity with thinking. The truth is, you are not the thinker. You are the awareness behind the thinker. And the beginning of freedom is the realization that you are not the possessing entity, the thinker. Knowing this enables you to observe the entity. The moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. You begin to realize there is a vast realm of intelligence beyond thought, and that thought is only a tiny aspect of that intelligence. You realize that all the things that truly matter, beauty, love, creativity, joy, inner peace, arise from beyond the mind. You begin to awaken. So how do you do it? How do you watch the thinker? It's simpler than it sounds. You just start listening to the voice in your head as often as you can. Pay attention to the repetitive thought patterns, those old gramophone records that have been playing in your head for years. When you listen to that voice, listen to it impartially. Don't judge what you hear. If you judge, it just means the same voice has come in again through the back door. You'll soon realize, there's the voice, and here I am, listening to it, watching it. This I am realization, this sense of your own presence, is not a thought. It arises from beyond the mind. When you do this, something amazing happens. The thought loses its power over you and quickly subsides, because you are no longer energizing the mind by identifying with it. This is the beginning of the end of involuntary, compulsive thinking. When a thought subsides, you experience a discontinuity in the mental stream, a gap of no mind. At first, these gaps might be short, just a few seconds. But gradually, they will become longer. And when these gaps occur, you feel a certain stillness and peace inside you. This is the beginning of your natural state of oneness with what Eckhart calls being. This is not a trance-like state. You don't lose consciousness. The opposite is true. You are much more alert, more awake than you were in the mind-identified state. You are fully present. So the single most vital step on your journey toward enlightenment is this: learn to disidentify from your mind. Every time you create a gap in the stream of mind, the light of your consciousness grows stronger. One day, you might even catch yourself smiling at the voice in your head, as you would at the antics of a child. This means you no longer take the content of your mind so seriously, because your sense of self doesn't depend on it. Now, you might be thinking, but isn't thinking essential to survive in this world? Of course. Your mind is an instrument, a tool. It's there to be used for a specific task, and when the task is completed, you lay it down. The problem is, most of us never lay it down. As it is, Eckhart suggests that 80 to 90% of most people's thinking is not only repetitive and useless, but because of its often negative nature, much of it is also harmful. It causes a serious leakage of your vital energy. This kind of compulsive thinking is an addiction. And what characterizes an addiction? You no longer feel that you have the choice to stop. It seems stronger than you. Why are we addicted to thinking? Because we derive our sense of self from the content and activity of our mind. We believe that we would cease to be if we stopped thinking. As you grow up, you form a mental image of who you are, based on your personal and cultural conditioning. Tolle calls this phantom self the ego. The ego consists of mind activity and can only be kept going through constant thinking. To the ego, the present moment hardly exists. Only the past and future are important. The past gives it an identity: this is who I am because of what happened to me. And the future holds the promise of its fulfillment or salvation one day: when I get this or that, I'll be okay. It is always concerned with keeping the past alive, because without it, who are you? And it constantly projects itself into the future to ensure its continued survival. The ego looks at the present moment through the eyes of the past, so it completely misperceives it. Or, it reduces the present to a mere means to an end that always lies in the mind-projected future. The present moment, Eckhart says, holds the key to liberation. But you cannot find the present moment as long as you are your mind. Enlightenment isn't about losing your mind. It's about rising above it. In the enlightened state, you still use your thinking mind when needed, but in a much more focused and effective way. You are free of the involuntary internal dialogue, and there is inner stillness. When a creative solution is needed, you oscillate between thought and stillness, between mind and no mind. No mind is consciousness without thought. And only in that way is it possible to think creatively, because only then does thought have any real power. All true artists, all great scientists, create from a place of inner stillness. The mind is essentially a survival machine. It's good at attacking, defending, and analyzing information. But it is not creative. True intelligence, true creativity, works through the mind from a deeper place. Now, what about emotions? Many of us feel more controlled by our emotions than our thoughts. Tolle explains that emotion arises at the place where mind and body meet. It is the body's reaction to your mind, or you could say, a reflection of your mind in the body. For example, an attack thought or a hostile thought will create a buildup of energy in your body that we call anger. The thought that you are being threatened, physically or psychologically, causes the body to contract, and this is the physical side of what we call fear. If you really want to know your mind, the body will always give you a truthful reflection. So, look at the emotion, or rather, feel it in your body. If there seems to be a conflict between a thought and an emotion, the thought will be the lie, and the emotion will be the truth, the relative truth of your state of mind at that time. Just as you can watch your thoughts, you can also watch your emotions. The only difference is that a thought is in your head, while an emotion has a strong physical component and is primarily felt in the body. You can allow the emotion to be there without being controlled by it. You are no longer the emotion, you are the watcher, the observing presence. If you practice this, everything that is unconscious in you will be brought into the light of consciousness. Often, a vicious circle builds up between your thinking and your emotion. They feed each other. A thought pattern creates a magnified reflection of itself as an emotion, and the vibrational frequency of the emotion keeps feeding the original thought pattern. For example, you dwell mentally on something that made you angry, and this thought feeds the emotion of anger. The anger, in turn, energizes the thought pattern, and you get stuck in a loop of outrage. But where do all these emotions come from? Eckhart says that basically, all emotions are modifications of one primordial, undifferentiated emotion that has its origin in the loss of awareness of who you are beyond name and form. The best word for this basic emotion is simply pain. One of the main tasks of the mind is to fight or remove this emotional pain. But all it can ever do is cover it up temporarily. In fact, The harder the mind struggles to get rid of the pain, the greater the pain becomes. The mind can never find the solution, because it is itself an intrinsic part of the problem. You will not be free of that pain until you cease to derive your sense of self from identification with the mind, from the ego. When you do that, the mind is toppled from its place of power, and being reveals itself as your true nature. But what about positive emotions, like love and joy? Tolle makes a profound distinction here. He says that true love, joy, and peace are not really emotions in the ordinary sense. They are deep states of being. They are inseparable from your natural state of inner connection with being. They lie beyond the emotions, on a much deeper level. Emotions, being part of the dualistic mind, are subject to the law of opposites. You cannot have good without bad. So, in the mind-identified condition, what is sometimes called joy is just the short-lived pleasure side of the constantly alternating pain/pleasure cycle. Pleasure is always derived from something outside you. The thing that gives you pleasure today might give you pain tomorrow. True joy, on the other hand, arises from within. It has no opposite. Real love doesn't make you suffer. It doesn't suddenly turn into hate. Real joy doesn't turn into pain. This is because they arise from beyond the mind. You might get glimpses of these states when a gap occurs in your stream of thought, perhaps triggered by great beauty, or a moment of stillness. But they cannot flourish until you have freed yourself from mind dominance. So, the greater part of human pain is unnecessary. It is self-created as long as the unobserved mind runs your life. The pain you create now is always some form of non-acceptance, some form of unconscious resistance to what is. On the level of thought, this resistance is judgment. On the emotional level, it's negativity. The intensity of your pain depends on the degree of your resistance to the present moment. And this depends on how strongly you are identified with your mind. The mind always seeks to deny the now and to escape from it. Why? Because it cannot function and remain in control without time, past and future. It perceives the timeless now as threatening. In fact, time and mind are inseparable. Imagine the earth without human life. Would there be a past and a future? An oak tree or an eagle would be bemused by the question, "What time is it?" They would say, "Well, of course, it's now. The time is now. What else is there?" The mind continuously covers up the present moment with past and future. And as the vitality and infinite creative potential of being, which is inseparable from the now, becomes covered up by time, your true nature becomes obscured by the mind. The accumulation of time in the human mind also holds a vast amount of residual pain from the past. This leads us to one of Eckhart's most powerful concepts, the pain body. As long as you are unable to access the power of the now, every emotional pain that you experience leaves behind a residue of pain that lives on in you. It merges with the pain from the past, pain you suffered as a child, pain from your adolescence, all of it, and becomes lodged in your mind and body. This accumulated pain is a negative energy field that occupies your body and mind. Tolle asks us to look on it as an invisible entity in its own right, the emotional pain body. The pain body has two modes, dormant and active. It might be dormant 90% of the time. But in a deeply unhappy person, it may be active 100% of the time. Some people live almost entirely through their pain body. Anything can trigger it, particularly if it resonates with a pain pattern from your past. When it's ready to awaken from its dormant stage, even an innocent remark from someone close to you can activate it. Some pain bodies are relatively harmless, like a child who won't stop whining. Others are vicious and destructive monsters. Some are physically violent, many more are emotionally violent. Some will attack people around you, while others may attack you, their host. Thoughts and feelings about your life then become deeply negative and self-destructive. It's more important to observe it in yourself than in someone else. Watch out for any sign of unhappiness in yourself, in whatever form: irritation, impatience, a somber mood, a desire to hurt, anger, rage, depression. Catch it the moment it awakens from its dormant state. The pain body wants to survive. And it can only survive if it gets you to unconsciously identify with it. It can then rise up, take you over, become you, and live through you. It needs to get its food through you. It will feed on any experience that resonates with its own kind of energy, anything that creates further pain, anger, destructiveness, grief, emotional drama, violence. So when the pain body has taken you over, it will create a situation in your life that reflects back its own energy frequency for it to feed on. Pain can only feed on pain. Pain cannot feed on joy. It finds it quite indigestible. Once the pain body has taken you over, you want more pain. You become a victim or a perpetrator. You want to inflict pain, or you want to suffer pain, or both. You're not conscious of this, of course. You'll claim you don't want pain. But if you look closely, you will find that your thinking and behavior are designed to keep the pain going, for yourself and others. The pain body, which is the dark shadow cast by the ego, is actually afraid of the light of your consciousness. It's afraid of being found out. Its survival depends on your unconscious identification with it. But if you don't face it, if you don't bring the light of your consciousness into the pain, you will be forced to relive it again and again. So how do you dissolve it? You don't fight it. Trying to do so would create inner conflict and thus further pain. Watching it is enough. The moment you observe it, feel its energy field within you, and take your attention into it, the identification is broken. A higher dimension of consciousness has come in. You are now the witness, the watcher of the pain body. This means it cannot use you anymore by pretending to be you, and it can no longer replenish itself through you. You have found your own innermost strength. You have accessed the power of now. Unconsciousness creates the pain body. Consciousness transmutes it into itself. As Street Paul said, everything is shown up by being exposed to the light, and whatever is exposed to the light itself becomes light. When you start to disidentify and become the watcher, the pain body will continue to operate for a while. It has a certain momentum, like a spinning wheel. It may create physical aches and pains in your body, but they won't last. It will try to trick you into identifying with it again. For example, if anger is its predominant energy, and you start thinking angry thoughts, dwelling on what someone did to you, then you have become unconscious again, and the pain body has become you. Sustained conscious attention severs the link between the pain body and your thought processes. The pain then becomes fuel for the flame of your consciousness, which burns more brightly as a result. This is the esoteric meaning of the ancient art of alchemy, the transmutation of base metal into gold, of suffering into consciousness. The split within you is healed, and you become whole again. The process is profoundly powerful, yet simple. Focus your attention on the feeling inside you. Know that it is the pain body. Accept that it is there. Don't think about it. Don't let the feeling turn into thinking. Don't judge or analyze. Don't make an identity for yourself out of it. Stay present, and continue to be the observer of what is happening inside you. This is the power of the now, the power of your own conscious presence. Then see what happens. Now, this can be difficult, especially if you have lived closely identified with your emotional pain for most of your life. You may have made an unhappy self out of your pain body and believe that this mind-made fiction is who you are. In that case, an unconscious fear of losing your identity will create strong resistance. In other words, you would rather be in pain, be the pain body, Then take a leap into the unknown and risk losing the familiar, unhappy self. If this applies to you, observe the resistance. Observe the attachment to your pain. Observe the peculiar pleasure you might derive from being unhappy, the compulsion to talk or think about it. The resistance will cease if you make it conscious. The origin of much of this pain is fear. Psychological fear is always of something that might happen, not of something that is happening now. You are in the here and now, while your mind is in the future. This creates an anxiety gap. And if you are identified with your mind, that anxiety gap will be your constant companion. You can always cope with the present moment, but you cannot cope with something that is only a mind projection. You cannot cope with the future. Ultimately, all fear is the ego's fear of death, of annihilation. To the ego, death is always just around the corner. In this mind-identified state, fear of death affects every aspect of your life. For example, even a seemingly trivial thing like the compulsive need to be right in an argument is due to the fear of death. If you identify with a mental position, and you are wrong, your mind-based sense of self is threatened with annihilation. To be wrong is to die for the ego. Once you have disidentified from your mind, whether you are right or wrong makes no difference to your sense of self. Your sense of self is then derived from a deeper place within yourself, not from the mind. So, if we understand that the root of our suffering is identification with the mind, the ego and its shadow, the pain body, how do we get out? The key is simple and radical. End the delusion of time. Time and mind are inseparable. Remove time from the mind and it stops, unless you choose to use it. To be identified with your mind is to be trapped in time, the compulsion to live almost exclusively through memory and anticipation. This creates an endless preoccupation with past and future and an unwillingness to honor and acknowledge the present moment and allow it to be. But time isn't precious at all, Eckhart argues, because it is an illusion. What you perceive as precious is not time, but the one point that is out of time, the now. That is precious indeed. The more you are focused on time, past and future, the more you miss the now, the most precious thing there is. Why is it the most precious thing? First, because it is the only thing. It's all there is. The eternal present is the space within which your whole life unfolds. Life is now. There was never a time when your life was not now, nor will there ever be. Second, the now is the only point that can take you beyond the limited confines of the mind. It is your only point of access into the timeless and formless realm of being. Have you ever experienced, done, thought, or felt anything outside the now? Is it possible for anything to happen outside the now? The answer is obvious. Nothing ever happened in the past. It happened in a now. Nothing will ever happen in the future. It will happen in a now. What you think of as the past is a memory trace of a former now. When you remember the past, you do so now. The future is an imagined now, a projection of the mind. When the future comes, it comes as the now. When you think about the future, you do it now. Past and future have no reality of their own. Their reality is borrowed from the now. The moment you truly grasp this, there is a shift in consciousness from mind to being, from time to presence. Suddenly, everything feels alive, radiates energy, emanates being. This is the key to the spiritual dimension. The whole essence of Zen consists in walking along the razor's edge of now, to be so utterly, so completely present that no problem, no suffering, nothing that is not who you are in your essence, can survive in you. In the now, in the absence of time, all your problems dissolve. Suffering needs time, it cannot survive in the now. A great Zen master would often ask his students, what, at this moment, is lacking? It's a powerful question that isn't meant to be answered by the mind. It's designed to take your attention deeply into the now. So, how do we access this power? You've already had glimpses of it. When you perceive a tree without the screen of mind, when you are awestruck by the vastness of the night sky, when you truly listen to the sound of a mountain stream, in those moments, you are free of time. You are in the now. The awareness of being becomes part of your perception. With the timeless dimension comes a different kind of knowing, one that does not kill the spirit that lives within everything. The mind cannot know a tree. It can only know facts about a tree. Being alone knows directly. To make this your state, you must break the old pattern of present moment denial and resistance. Make it your practice to withdraw attention from past and future whenever they are not needed. Step out of the time dimension as much as possible in everyday life. If you find it hard to enter the now directly, start by observing your mind's habitual tendency to want to escape from the now. Through self-observation, more presence comes into your life automatically. The moment you realize you are not present, you are present. Whenever you are able to observe your mind, you are no longer trapped in it. Be present as the watcher of your mind, of your thoughts, your emotions, and your reactions. Be at least as interested in your reactions as in the situation or person that causes you to react. Identification with the mind gives it more energy. Observation of the mind withdraws energy from it. Identification with the mind creates more time. Observation of the mind opens up the dimension of the timeless. The energy that is withdrawn from the mind turns into presence. We need to distinguish between two kinds of time. The first is clock time. This is what we use for practical matters, making an appointment, planning a trip, learning from the past. The enlightened person still uses clock time. The second is psychological time. This is the mind's identification with the past and its continuous, compulsive projection into the future. This is the source of all our problems. For example, if you made a mistake in the past and learn from it now, you are using clock time. But if you dwell on it mentally, and self-criticism, remorse, or guilt come up, you are making it part of your sense of self. It has become psychological time. If you set a goal and work toward it, you are using clock time. But if you become excessively focused on the goal, seeking happiness or fulfillment in it, the now is no longer honored. It becomes a mere stepping stone to the future. Your life's journey is no longer an adventure, just an obsessive need to arrive. You no longer see the flowers by the wayside. All negativity is caused by an accumulation of psychological time and a denial of the present. Unease, anxiety, stress, worry, all forms of fear, are caused by too much future and not enough presence. Guilt, regret, resentment, sadness, bitterness, all forms of non-forgiveness, are caused by too much past and not enough presence. You think that your attention is in the present moment, but often it's actually taken up completely by time. You cannot be both unhappy and fully present in the now. What you refer to as your life is often just your life situation. Your life situation exists in time. It is mind stuff. Your life is now. Your life is real. Find the narrow gate that leads to life. It is called the now. Narrow your life down to this moment. Your life situation may be full of problems, but find out if you have any problem at this moment. Not tomorrow, not in 10 minutes, but now. Do you have a problem now? When your attention is fully in the now, it's impossible to have a problem. A situation that needs to be dealt with or accepted, yes. But why make it into a problem? Problems are mind-made and need time to survive. They cannot survive in the actuality of the now. This leads to a radical realization. All problems are illusions of the mind. The mind unconsciously loves problems because they give you an identity. Problem means you are dwelling on a situation mentally without there being a true intention or possibility of taking action now, and you are unconsciously making it part of your sense of self. When you create a problem, you create pain. All it takes is a simple choice. No matter what happens, I will create no more pain for myself. I will create no more problems. This doesn't mean you become passive. In fact, if a situation arises that you need to deal with, your action will be clear and incisive if it arises out of present moment awareness. It will be an intuitive response, not a reaction coming from the past conditioning of your mind. Now, let's go deeper. You've had glimpses of this state, this freedom from mind and time. How do you make it your predominant state? The key is to be deeply rooted within yourself. Otherwise, the mind, which has incredible momentum, will drag you along like a wild river. To be rooted within yourself means to inhabit your body fully. To always have some of your attention in the inner energy field of your body. To feel the body from within. Body awareness keeps you present. It anchors you in the now. The body that you can see and touch is only an outer shell. In your natural state, you can feel a deeper reality every moment as the invisible inner body, the animating presence within you. To inhabit the body is to feel the life inside it and thereby come to know that you are beyond the outer form. To become conscious of being, you need to reclaim consciousness from the mind. A very effective way of doing this is to take the focus of your attention away from thinking and direct it into the body. You can try it now. Close your eyes. Direct your attention into your body. Feel it from within. Is there life in your hands, your arms, your legs? Can you feel the subtle energy field that pervades your entire body? Keep focusing on this feeling for a few moments. Don't think about it. Feel it. The more attention you give it, the stronger this feeling will become. This is the doorway into being. The inner body lies at the threshold between your form identity and your essence identity, your true nature. Never lose touch with it. For centuries, many religions and spiritual seekers have condemned or denied the body, seeing it as a hindrance. But transformation is through the body, not away from it. This is why no true master has ever advocated fighting or leaving the body. The key is to be in a state of permanent connectedness with your inner body, to feel it at all times. This will rapidly deepen and transform your life. The more consciousness you direct into the inner body, the higher its vibrational frequency becomes. At this higher energy level, negativity cannot affect you anymore. If you keep your attention in the body as much as possible, you will be anchored in the now. You won't lose yourself in the external world, and you won't lose yourself in your mind. Thoughts and emotions, fears and desires, may still be there, but they won't take you over. Whenever you are waiting, in a traffic jam, in a line, use that time to feel the inner body. In this way, these situations become very enjoyable. Instead of mentally projecting yourself away from the now, you go more deeply into the now by going more deeply into the body. When challenges come, as they always do, make it a habit to go within at once and focus on the inner energy field of your body. This need not take long, just a few seconds. But you must do it the moment the challenge presents itself. Any delay will allow a conditioned mental emotional reaction to arise and take you over. When you focus within, you immediately become still and present, because you are withdrawing consciousness from the mind. If a response is required, it will come from this deeper level of intelligence. This brings us to relationships. Unless and until you access the consciousness frequency of presence, all relationships, especially intimate ones, are deeply flawed and ultimately dysfunctional. They may seem perfect for a while, when you're in love, but invariably that perfection gets disrupted as conflicts and dissatisfaction arise. Most love relationships become love/hate relationships. Love can turn into a savage attack or complete withdrawal of affection at the flick of a switch. The relationship then oscillates between the polarities of love and hate, and it gives you as much pleasure as it gives you pain. This is not true love, which has no opposite because it arises from beyond the mind. This is egoic, romantic love. The reason it's such an intense and sought-after experience is that it seems to offer liberation from the deep-seated fear, need, and incompleteness that is part of the human condition. On a physical level, you are either a man or a woman, one half of the whole. The longing for wholeness manifests as male-female attraction. On a psychological level, the sense of lack is even greater. As long as you are identified with the mind, the ego feels vulnerable and is always seeking new things to identify with to feel that it exists. Then that special relationship comes along. It seems to be the answer to all the ego's problems. You now have a single focal point that gives meaning to your life. The underlying feelings of incompleteness and fear seem to disappear. But have they dissolved, or do they just continue to exist underneath the happy surface? You become addicted to the other person. They act on you like a drug. But there comes a point when your partner behaves in ways that fail to meet your ego's needs. The feelings of fear, pain, and lack that were covered up by the love relationship now resurface. And you now perceive your partner as the cause of those feelings. You project them outward and attack. Every addiction arises from an unconscious refusal to face and move through your own pain. You are using something or somebody to cover up your pain. That's why, after the initial euphoria, there is so much unhappiness in intimate relationships. They don't cause the pain, they bring out the pain and unhappiness that is already in you. So, can we change an addictive relationship into a true one? Yes. By being present and intensifying your presence. For love to flourish, the light of your presence needs to be strong enough so that you no longer get taken over by the thinker or the pain body and mistake them for who you are. The greatest catalyst for change in a relationship is complete acceptance of your partner as they are, without needing to judge or change them. That immediately takes you beyond ego. All mind games and addictive clinging are then over. There are no victims and no perpetrators. You will then either separate, in love, or move ever more deeply into the now together. Love is a state of being. It is not outside, it is deep within you. You can never lose it. In the stillness of your presence, you can feel your own formless reality. You can then feel the same life deep within every other human being. You look beyond the veil of form and separation. This is the realization of oneness. This is love. So, instead of avoiding relationships, you can use them as a spiritual practice, or sadhana. Whenever your relationship brings out the madness in you and your partner, be glad. What was unconscious is being brought up to the light. It is an opportunity for salvation. If you observe unconscious behavior in your partner, hold it in the loving embrace of your knowing so that you won't react. Unconsciousness and knowing cannot coexist for long. If you react, you become unconscious yourself. But if you then remember to know your reaction, nothing is lost. You do not need to wait for your partner to cooperate. Sanity can only come into this world through you. This is what it means to go beyond happiness and unhappiness. There is peace. Happiness depends on conditions being perceived as positive. Inner peace does not. When you live in complete acceptance of what is, there is no good or bad in your life anymore. There is only a higher good, which includes the bad. You are not pretending anything is not bad. You are allowing it to be as it is. This allowing to be takes you beyond the mind's resistance patterns. It is the essence of forgiveness. Forgiveness of the present is even more important than forgiveness of the past. If you forgive every moment, allow it to be as it is, then there will be no accumulation of resentment. When a loved one dies, you cannot be happy, but you can be at peace. There may be sadness and tears, but if you have relinquished resistance, underneath the sadness you will feel a deep serenity, a sacred presence. This is inner peace, the good that has no opposite. This state of acceptance is the end of all drama in your life. Most people are in love with their life drama. Their story is their identity. What they fear and resist most is the end of their drama, their own awakening. When you live in complete acceptance of what is, that is the end of all drama. Nobody can even have an argument with you. An argument implies identification with a mental position and resistance to another's position. You can still state your point clearly, but there will be no reactive force behind it. This brings us back to the core practice, surrender. Surrender is the simple but profound wisdom of yielding to, rather than opposing, the flow of life. The only place you can experience that flow is the now. To surrender is to accept the present moment unconditionally. It is to relinquish inner resistance. Surrender is a purely inner phenomenon. It does not mean you can't take action on the outside. In fact, it is not the overall situation you need to accept, but just the tiny segment called the now. If you were stuck in the mud, you wouldn't say, "Okay, I resign myself to being stuck here." Resignation is not surrender. You recognize fully that you want to get out. You then narrow your attention to the present moment without labeling it. No judgment. You accept the isness of this moment. Then you take action and do all you can to get out of the mud. This is positive action, and it is far more effective than action that arises from anger or despair. Non-surrender hardens the shell of the ego. It creates a strong sense of separateness. The world seems threatening. Your body becomes hard and rigid through resistance. Tension arises. Through surrender, you reconnect with the source energy of being. And if your doing is infused with being, it becomes a joyful celebration of life energy that takes you more deeply into the now. If you cannot surrender to the outside condition, then surrender to the inside one. If you cannot accept what is outside, then accept what is inside. Do not resist the pain. Allow it to be there. Surrender to the grief, the fear, the despair. Witness it without labeling it. Embrace it. Then see how the miracle of surrender transmutes deep suffering into deep peace. This is your crucifixion. Let it become your resurrection. Full attention is full acceptance, is surrender. By giving full attention to your pain, you use the power of the now, the power of your presence. Presence removes time. Without time, no suffering, no negativity, can survive. This is the meaning of the way of the cross. It means the worst thing in your life, your cross, turns into the best thing that ever happened to you, by forcing you into surrender, into death, forcing you to become as nothing, and so to become as God, because God, too, is nothing. For the unconscious, enlightenment through suffering is still the only way. But it doesn't have to be your way. Enlightenment consciously chosen means to relinquish your attachment to past and future and to make the now the main focus of your life. It means saying yes to what is. You then don't need pain anymore. How much more pain do you need before you can make that choice? If you think you need more time, you will get more time, and more pain. Time and pain are inseparable. But what about choice? Does a person in an abusive relationship choose that pain? Eckhart says that choice implies consciousness. Without it, you have no choice. Choice begins the moment you disidentify from the mind and its conditioned patterns. Until then, you are compelled to act in certain ways according to your conditioning. The mind, conditioned by the past, seeks to recreate what it knows, even if it's painful. The unknown is dangerous to the ego. The moment you become present, you break through your conditioned past. Then, you will have a choice. Nobody chooses dysfunction, conflict, pain. Nobody chooses insanity. They happen because there is not enough presence in you to dissolve the past, not enough light to dispel the darkness. You are not fully here. You have not quite woken up yet. In the meantime, the conditioned mind is running your life. When you realize this, there can be no more resentment. How can you resent someone's illness? The only appropriate response is compassion. This leads to true forgiveness. You cannot truly forgive yourself or others as long as you derive your sense of self from the past. Only through accessing the power of the now can there be true forgiveness. This renders the past powerless, and you realize deeply that nothing that ever happened could touch the radiant essence of who you are. The whole concept of forgiveness then becomes unnecessary. And how do you know when you have truly surrendered? When you no longer need to ask the question. Commentary. What Eckhart Tolle offers in The Power of Now is not a new set of beliefs, a new philosophy, or a complex system to follow. It's actually the opposite. It's an invitation to let go of complexity, to see through the illusions that our own minds create, and to discover a depth within ourselves that we've forgotten. The most powerful and, I think, most revolutionary idea in this book is its beautiful simplicity. The source of our suffering is not the world, it's not other people, it's not our circumstances. The primary source of our suffering is our own mind, specifically, our compulsive thinking and our resistance to the present moment. And the solution is equally simple. Become present. In a world that is constantly pulling our attention outward, to our phones, our goals, our worries, our past regrets, this message is more urgent than ever. We are a society obsessed with the future and haunted by the past. We live in a state of psychological time, and we wonder why we are so anxious, so stressed, so unfulfilled. Tolle gives us the diagnosis and the cure in one breath. The mind is the problem, and the now is the answer. His concept of the pain body is a masterstroke of clarity. It gives a name and a shape to that recurring emotional pain that so many of us experience, that dark cloud of anger, grief, or depression that seems to descend upon us and take over. By understanding it not as me but as an old energy field, we gain the power to observe it without being consumed by it. We learn to meet it with the light of our consciousness, and in doing so, we don't just endure it, we transmute it. This isn't about positive thinking or pretending that everything is okay when it isn't. It's about a radical acceptance of what is. It's about finding the freedom that comes from saying yes to this moment, exactly as it is. Because in that acceptance, resistance dissolves. And when resistance dissolves, suffering ends. What remains is a deep, quiet peace that isn't dependent on anything outside of you. So, how can you start applying this profound wisdom in your life? Starting today, here are a few simple, practical actions you can take. First, practice watching the thinker. Just for a few minutes a day, find a quiet place, close your eyes, and just listen to the voice in your head. Don't engage with it, don't judge it, don't analyze it. Just notice it. See it as an objective phenomenon, like clouds passing in the sky. This simple act of observation begins to create a separation between you, the silent watcher, and the noise of your mind. It's the first step to freedom. Second, use micro-moments of presence throughout your day. You don't need to retreat to a monastery. When you're washing your hands, don't think about the next thing you have to do. Instead, feel the sensation of the water on your skin. Hear the sound it makes. Smell the soap. When you walk from your car to your front door, feel your feet connecting with the ground. Feel the air on your face. Use your ordinary, routine activities as anchors to the present moment. And third, whenever you feel anxious or overwhelmed, ask yourself this powerful question. What problem do I have right now, at this very moment? Not next week, not tomorrow, not even in 5 minutes. Just right now. You will often find that, in the actual, immediate present, there is no problem. There is only a situation. The problem is usually a mental projection about a future that hasn't happened yet. This question can instantly cut through the fog of anxiety and bring you back to the sanity of the now. The greatest adventure we can embark on isn't about conquering mountains or building empires out there in the world. The greatest adventure is the journey inward, into the stillness and silence of the present moment. That's where you find not just peace, not just joy, but your true self, which was there all along, waiting patiently underneath the noise of the mind. That was a summary of The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. We've touched on the core ideas today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary is like looking at a picture of a feast. The real nourishment comes when you experience it for yourself. The true magic happens in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple phrase lands in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning new information, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself and the world around you. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.